How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, May 22nd, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the 2021-22 Ligue 1 French soccer season. As of course, I'm going to review how the season would go for all 20 of the teams that would compete for France's top honor of being recognized as one of the best teams in all of France. And of course, to understand the Ligue 1, I'll give you a quick overview. It is the top 20 teams. The bottom two teams every year get relegated, and the third worst team has to eventually play off to play. So it's not the same 20 teams every single year. These are the top 20 teams that would earn their way into the Ligue 1. And of course, the Ligue 1 is regarded as one of the 5, if not 6, premier European soccer leagues, if we're not counting, or if we're counting Portugal at 6. And the way that it really kind of works through is from the top. They also have teams that automatically qualify for the European tournaments. And I'm going to go through how each team was able to finish, not to mention their individual players that would go on to be league leaders. Starting off with the team that finished at the very top, it was PSG. Paris Saint-Germain will go on to win the Ligue 1 for the 8th time in the last 10 seasons. Last year, the team that had won was Lille, but after last season, of course, PSG would go on to win this year, as PSG would go on to show that they were the most dominant team in France. They would go on to finish with only 4 losses in 26 wins, 8 total draws in 38 matches. PSG would have the Ligue 1's leading scorer. Their elite forward from France, Kylian Mbappe, would finish with 28 goals. He would also be the Ligue 1's leading assister, as he had 17 of them. He had 45 total scoring plays. And of course, it's very rare when you see a player individually lead the entire league in scoring and in assists in 2 separate stats. One player who has done it was the second leading assister in PSG, as their goated forward from Argentina, Lionel Messi, would finish with 14 assists for himself. So he would go on to sit at the top with Kylian Mbappe, as they would of course set the Ligue 1 on fire. And then of course their goalie with the most amount of clean sheets was Keylor Navas, as he had 9 clean sheets in the 21 matchups he played, as Keylor Navas had played his last season with PSG. Not to mention, so did Angel Di Maria, but Kylian Mbappe did go on to re-sign, and of course Neymar would have a pretty good season for himself. But sitting right behind them, and I guess following this season, what's next for them is Champions League, as they will get their own seed in the Champions League group stage, and they will get a chance to, of course, fight their way into Champions League contention last year to, of course, prove that they re-signed Mbappe for a reason. Taking a look at who would go on to finish second in La Ligue or Ligue 1 this season, that would end up going to Marseille, who would end up taking that second spot in France in the very last game. In their very last matchup, it would be a 4-0 win for them, as they would go on to pick up their individual win against Strasbourg. They would end up making it in because Monaco would end up drawing Toulon. So Marseille is going to be the second team from France that is automatically through. Their leading scorer, their leading assister, Dimitri Payet, would finish 5th in Ligue 1 in assists. So of course that is the Marseille player who would end up in the stat leaderboards, as he would be very instrumental in helping this Marseille team earn their way back into Champions League. And then taking a look at how they fared defensively, their goalie Pau Lopez would be one of 6 goalies in France who would register a double-digit amount of clean sheets over the regular season. But after the season finished, like I said, Marseille is going to be the second team in. Monaco would finish 3rd, as they finished with just 2 less points than Marseille, as they would have 1 less win and 1 more draw than Marseille. That would be the 2-point difference. Monaco's season would, of course, see themselves lose the automatic Champions League spot in the 96th minute off of a goal from Lens's Ganago. But regardless with this, they're going to be facing off in UEFA Champions League qualifiers, as they're going to have to fight their way to hopefully be the third team from France to hopefully make it into Champions League. They had the second leading scorer in Ligue 1, as Wissam Ben Yedder would finish with 25 goals for himself. He'll be very instrumental in helping Monaco make it all the way to the end. And Monaco's goalie, Bayern Munich's loanee, Alexander Nubel, would finish tied for third in the Ligue 1 in clean sheets, as he would finish with 38 of them on the year. But sitting right behind them, sitting right behind Monaco for fourth place in France. The team that gets the automatic Europa League group stage spot was Stade Rennais. Stade Rennais would go on to finish with 3 less points than Monaco in the table, as they were the highest rated team with a double-digit amount of losses. They had 20 wins, 6 draws, and 12 losses on the season. Stade Rennais would see their leading scorer, Martin Terrier, tie with Moussa Dembele from Lyon for the third most amount of goals in the Ligue 1. And then Benjamin Beauregard would finish third in the Ligue 1 with assists. And then Hamari Traore would finish with 10 assists. They would have 2 players with a double-digit amount of assists, just like PSG did, as Ron would, of course, be a well-oiled machine to get themselves into the next round. As Stade's goalie, Alfred Gomis, would finish with 10 clean sheets. He was also one of 6 goalies to have 10 clean sheets, just to give you a sense of how strong this team has been within Ligue 1. The 5th seed would end up going to Nice. Nice would finish with the same amount of points as Rennais in the table, but Rennais would finish with a goal differential of about 26 more than Nice, so Nice would end up getting that spot. But with 5th spot, they would end up they will go on to Europa Conference League qualifiers. And taking a look at how their season would end, their leading goal scorer, Andy Delort, would finish with 18 goals himself, as he would be the player on the offense that really did a lot for Nice. And Nice's goalie, Walter Benitez, would finish with the Ligue 1's lead in clean sheets, as he would finish with 14 of them. Sitting right behind them in the table was 6th place Strasbourg. Strasbourg was the team that ended up losing to Marseille, as a win from Strasbourg could have earned them a spot in the Europa Conference League qualifiers, but Strasbourg would end up having a pretty good season, sitting relatively close to the top. Strasbourg's goalie, Mats Sells, would finish with the second most amount of clean sheets in the Ligue 1 this year, as he had 13 of them in the 37 matches he played. And then sitting right behind them is 7th place Lens. Lens sit only 1 point behind Strasbourg and 4 points out of playing further games outside of France. And taking a look at how that season would end for him, their leading assister, Jonathan Klaus, would finish 4th in the Ligue 1, as he would finish with 11 of them. And not to mention he would be very instrumental, and they would be very instrumental in helping them finish pretty high. But of course, they hope to do better and place better the next season. 8th place went to Olympique Lyonnais. They finished with 1 less point than Lens in the table, and they finished 5 points behind 5th place Nice. Taking a look at how Lyon's individual leaders would fare, Lyon's leading scorer, Moussa Dembele, would be one of 4 players in the Ligue 1 who finished with at least 20 goals. And then not to mention their goalie, Anthony Lopez, would finish with 9 clean sheets. But of course, this is the team that hoped they would do better this season. And of course, next season they will have their chance. Sitting behind them was 9th place Nantes, as they sat even with 10th place Lille, as they both tied for that spot, as Lille were the team that won they would win the Ligue 1 last season. But of course, sitting right behind them specifically in this table, holding that 11th spot in France, is Brest. They finished with 7 less points than Lille. Sitting behind them was Stade Reims, as Reims would finish with 46 points in the table. Stade Reims' goalie, Predrag Rajkovic, would be one of 6 goalies this year who finished with a double-digit amount of clean sheets in the year. even though his team would finish in the bottom half of France. Third place went to Montpellier as they finished with 3 less points than Stade Reims. 14th place went to Angers as they finished with 41 points in the table. 15th went to Troyes. 16th went to Lorient. And then the last seed of France that automatically advances to Ligue 1 play next year was Clermont-Foot. Clermont-Foot would be tied with Lorient with 36 points in the table. And then now we get into the teams that would end up that are dealing with relegation. 18th place went to Saint-Étienne. Saint-Étienne is going to face off in a relegation matchup to see if they're going to be staying in Ligue 1, because that is how the third to last spot in the French league works. And then the last 2 spots went to Metz and Bordeaux as they both finished with 31 points in the table. They both had 6 wins, 13 draws, and 19 losses. They both are going to be moved down to the Ligue 2, and then the 2 teams that were sitting at the top of Ligue 2 are going to get moved up to Ligue 1, because that's how that works. And just like that, the cycle starts right back over again with PSG at the top, hopefully looking to start yet another streak of Ligue 1 titles. But with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening. I do hope all as well, and I can't wait to see PSG and Marseille and hopefully Monaco in Champions League next season. I want to thank the ESPN and, of course, even the FIFA, even the Google sites for giving me all the facts and figures. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. With that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and peace out. I'll catch you with more tomorrow.